Growing up in a small town located in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, I saw firsthand how important the few industries are to local economy. Nevada County was first established in 1851 but came to life during the gold rush of 1869. For decades, mining and logging had been the leading means of economic support for a majority of the population. My grandfather moved to Nevada County in 1968 in hopes of finding a better job to support his growing family. He worked in the timber industry for just 8 years before the environmental movement of the 60s and 70s began pushing the logging industry out of California. By then, my father had developed a passion for the forest that he then passed on to me. I grew up watching my dad leave for weeks at a time to fight fires that often grew out of control as a result of poor management practices. By the 1920s, the Pacific Northwest was responsible for producing over 30% of the nation's lumber. While California was hit hard by the Great Depression and the National Industrial Recovery Act passed by FDR, few things crippled the industry like the environmental movement of the 1960s. The modern environmental movement began in the early 1960s and 1970s. Oil spills and the infamous Lake Erie fire led to one of the largest pushes for increased preservation to date. Books, songs, and movies were produced to promote better environmental stewardship. This often led to public disenchantment brought on by an uninformed environmental movement aided by poor forest management practices. With the passage of the National Environmental Policy Act in 1970 and the Endangered Species Act in 1973, several regulations were put in place impacting the management of forest land. In 1976, the National Forest Management Act was passed in hopes of mitigating the differences between environmentalist and timber, mining, and livestock raising communities. Unfortunately, this did not happen. By the 1990s, the strong opposition from environmentalist groups led to an increase in the designation of forest land as wilderness, dramatically impacting the commercial timber industry. As time goes on, logging becomes a forgotten skill. Forests have become overgrown, and they no longer resemble what they used to when they were managed more naturally. This overgrowth makes them more susceptible to fire, pests, and diseases. The tree mortality rate and increase in yearly forest fires is a direct result of this dramatic overgrowth. National forest sales dropped dramatically after 1989 as a result of court decisions, public pressure, and management plans imposed to protect the northern spotted owl and other endangered species. California forest production as a whole reduced by more than 76 from 6 billion board feet in the 1980s to less than 1.8 billion board feet in 2012. According to the latest Nevada County crop report, the timber industry reduced from approximately $5 million in 2013 to $1.8 million in 2014. In 2002, President George W. Bush announced the Healthy Forest Initiative in order to reduce administrative, regulatory, and statutory barriers to reduce forest fuel levels on federally administered lands. At one time in Nevada County alone, there were 5 operating lumber mills, each employing 50 to 100 people. Thousands of people were additionally benefited from the income brought on by the supplemental industries such as logging and construction. As it disappeared, so did a way of life for all of those families. Hopefully, the Healthy Forest Initiative will promote positive management practices and encourage the growth of what was once a thriving industry.